Today we're finally starting a D&D miniature series that I've been wanting to do for a while. I want to do miniatures of mysterious strangers and maybe wizards and knights and dwarven warriors and as many different things we can do so you can have miniatures for your D&D campaigns or just really cool little figures to put on your bookshelf and keep wherever you want to. The figures we're working on today I'm going to call the Mysterious Stranger, and we're going to do this in two kind of flavors. We're going to do it one with a beard and one without, but we're going to spend time working on the robe and getting things just so. This is a beginner focused video. My goal for this whole series is that you can watch the Whittling 101 video and then jump in, and if you pay attention and you follow along, you should be able to come out with a reasonable facsimile of the carving we're doing today. I'm going to go over all of the details, show you what I do, how to do it step by step. Watch the video once first if you want to see how it's done before you do the carving yourself. That always helped me when I was new and I was learning from Doug Linker and Dodalo and all the other guys who are making great content when I was new. So we're going to use a 2-inch tall 1x1 block of basswood, and I'm just going to use one knife only to do this carving with. For our carving today, I'm going to start by, on the top of the carving, drawing a hash from corner to corner here, like a big X right there, okay? So from one corner to the other corner, just like that. And then about halfway in, I'm going to draw a straight line parallel with that middle line. Same way, about halfway in from the side to the middle. Again, right there, about halfway in. Make sure those lines are clearly visible. And then right behind this, just right there on the cusp of the tip, the very back edge of that, a straight line across, okay? We're going to remove that here, that there, and this right here. All that's going to get removed from our carving. This is going to be our head right there. I'm going to transfer this line right here straight down, and we're going to come down about a 1/2 inch to this point. Now, it's a 1/2 inch down. From the corner here, we're going to measure down about 3/4 of an inch, and then we're going to connect those lines. Same thing over here. We do the same thing. Come down about a 1/2 inch. Corner of the carving about 3/4 of an inch, and then come straight over. Okay, and that's going to be the gist of our head and how we're setting that up. Now for the bottom of those elbows, I'm going to draw a line from this corner all the way over here. So that the outside corner of the elbow here is about 5/8 up from the bottom, and this is that very bottom corner. We're just drawing a straight line between that, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to eyeball it for my guy, and that came out pretty good. Now the inside of the elbow, we're going to come in here about 1/4 of an inch and draw a line right there, okay? The bottom of that line here is about midway between the shoulder and the elbow, and I come up just about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Same area. Let me get about 1/4 of an inch in right there. Okay. Right there. Nice and easy. Then our line is going to come straight across here, like so. Straight across from one side to the other. And that creates the plane for our hands. And that's really all we need. We're going to transfer this line here down here as well, because that's the inside of the arm or the edge of the rib cage. And that's going to transfer straight down here. That'll be the outside edge of our robe. Okay. Same thing on that side. The outside edge of our robe, right like that. So that's how we're going to have things drawn on here. Those marks are going to go away rather quickly once we get this set up a little bit. And that's okay. There's no problem with that. So we're going to start with the knife. And I always like to start on the side of the head. So we're going to start here. We're going to go in on the head and out the top. We're kind of swooping in because we want to have a curved section here. While I'm doing this carving, and while I'm carving on this, take a look at the overlay up here in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. That overlay shows the finished carving. So this block right here that I'm working on right now, that is the exact picture that's right here in this corner. You're going to be able to see it the whole time and know exactly what we wound up getting when we did this carving. So for the knife, I'm going to use my left thumb to push the knife as I go through. I'm going to go in here and out at the top, just like so, taking off wood. I'm going to try to go right up to that line I drew along the top of the carving. In and out. I want to make it somewhat symmetrical along that side. So we got that smooth line there. Now I can go deeper in here to bring that shoulder in, but I don't need to be real exact with that yet, because as we progress, as we move forward, we're going to adjust things in this carving to make it look more natural, to make it look like cloth sitting around there. So we don't have to worry about getting that perfect. We want to get the side of the head here pretty close where we're going, and we want to get this corner pretty close to where we're going. And do the same thing on this side. Start by going in, swooping up. Don't try to take out too much the first time. Try to take out just what you can. If you take out little chunks, there's nothing wrong with that. You notice I'm not doing this in one push. I'm doing it in a lot of little ones and getting pretty far down pretty quickly. All right? Okay. For the back of the carving, that's what we're going to progress to next. We got the left side, right side there done. We're going to work in the back, okay? I want to take the back down to the back of the head right here. That's that line we drew right there. But I don't want to do that same depth all the way down. So about midway down the carving, that's where I'm going to start at. And I'm going to come straight up, taking that down until I get about to that section. Kind of the same swooping thing we did here on the shoulders, but I'm doing it from the midpoint of the carving and swooping up. I don't want to take down all of this depth down here yet, because I want to have the bottom of that robe coming out. So I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to take out about 1/4 of an inch here down the back of the carving. Not a whole lot, just 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to wind up with that right there for where we're at right now. Okay? Now, what we're going to do before we start taking off these lines, all the saw marks here, we're going to take out this little corner here and this little corner here, because that's the bottom of our elbow here, the side of our body. That doesn't need to be there. I like to do it right here from this angle here. I'm going to come in straight on this flat plane. Okay, so this here, that corner, that's the plane we're on, and I'm going to come in straight in on that angle, but I'm going to come in at the angle of the arm. So I'm going to come in straight, angle the arm, and I'm going to rock it in just like so. So I'm going to push this knife in, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain. So there's what I'm talking about, right? Right like so. Cutting right along that angle. And I'm going to carve right up to it to chip that out. Sink it in again. And right up to it. Cut the opposite direction to knock that bottom off. And that's what I got right there. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. Come in like so. Carve up to it. And then carve that bottom out the opposite direction. Just like that. Which leaves us looking quite like that. Not bad at all. Now I want to also, while I'm here, take out these little sections here underneath where these arms are going to go. So to do that, I'm going to rock the knife in along this plane. Okay, so we're on this flat plane here now. And I'm going to come in straight on that plane and angle it slightly down. So I'm rotating that knife blade just slight angle here. That way we go downhill from this plane here to the new plane that we're creating, because we're going to move this wood down here. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to get right in line with this elbow and then put that blade straight in, angle it a little bit, and I'm going to rock it in to get a little bit of depth there. See? And I'm going to carve right up to it. Redo that line if you need to. Take out a little bit more. We want to get about 1/8 of an inch. About yay much. Not a whole lot there. Just enough to set that in. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Figure out the angle that's going to work best for you to carve from. Rock that in. Same way. Then carve up to it. That's doing pretty good. Making good time, good progress. Now the bottom of that angle here, we don't need that hard corner. So I'm just going to take that out right now while I'm here. And that's looking fantastic. Now, before we start removing all of our saw marks, I want to set in our arms. To do that, I'm going to put a stop cut in right here along that flat line. A stop cut in here. You'll notice my blade's going a little bit past where I drew that line. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going straight in along this flat plane right here. So you can see how straight in that knife is, right? And then I had the tip of the knife was going deeper in right there. So I'm going to do the same thing here, okay? The tip of the knife is going to be right at the corner of that elbow. And I'm going to push it in where the tip of that knife is deeper than the outside. And then I'm going to carve that corner out like so and take a little chip out right there, right? And that little chip sets in our elbow. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Get right in that corner, push that down in there. And I'm going to take out that chipped corner there. Now we can try to take out the rest of this stuff up here underneath that chin or underneath that beard or whatever it's going to be. The top of the arms. Kind of set that in place. And you don't have to go crazy deep here. We're not looking to go crazy deep here yet. If we want to adjust it later, we absolutely can. But that is a good start. Now, we've got these saw marks in the carving right here, okay? All over right there. Those little bitty pencil marks still left over we drew. We want to remove all those saw marks because saw marks will take paint and stain differently than parts of the carving that have been touched by a blade. So we want to remove all of those saw marks. And this is a good point to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out right now. Now, if you don't understand wood grain, you may want to get a lot of tearing here. So be very careful to not get any tearing. You just want to scrape the surface and just get only those saw marks off. And notice I turned the carving to carve in the right direction, the direction that's not going to cause a lot of tearing while I'm doing this. From the wrong direction, your blade will start to dig deep and just tear the wood. And if you have to carve from that direction, you can, but something to remember is, take a look at this, right? This side here is going a little bit rough because it's wanting to bite deep. So what I'll do is, rather than go straight up, I'm going to rotate the knife and carve to the right while I do this and make it a little bit easier on me. And that's kind of cheating because I'm not carving in the direction it looks like I'm carving, but I want to point it out to you. That way you know what I'm doing and you can try to replicate if you need to. Okay, we have got all of that pretty much cleaned up. He's looking good so far. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set in our elbows. You'll notice that our back of our elbows, these aren't exactly parallel. This one here is a little bit lower than this one over there. So let's go ahead and fix that. Going to adjust that a little bit. And that's closer. Let's bring that one up a little bit higher. And now they're about even. Okay? So now we want to bring the back of those arms up a little bit. We want a little V notch in right here. And if you got a V tool, this is real easy to work it. You can grab your V tool, you can put a little notch in. If you don't have a V tool, what we're going to do is we're going to come in flat on this angle. So that line right there, on this angle right here behind the arm, I'm going to start at the top and run right down. Okay? And then I'm going to do a paring cut. Start right at the tip of that and just carve down to bring that down like so. Now you may be thinking that paring cut looks kind of dangerous, Johnny. What's going on there? So what I'm doing with that, I like to show this off in videos that are more new person oriented to make sure they understand. The movement here with that paring cut is this. The knife is in those fingers and the thumb is pushing in. This is the movement, okay? See where the blade is in relation to the thumb? The blade's not coming towards the thumb. So when I'm carving, this is what I'm doing. The thumb is moving the carving and the fingers are clenching in. I'm not going to be carving into my finger. If I get accustomed to this, if I get good at this, I'm not going to be carving my finger. So that's a move and a maneuver that it gives you a lot of power and it works really well and gives you a new angle to carve from. But you got to make sure that you're careful and that you know what you're doing. Also, I didn't mention this yet, wear a carving glove. Wear a carving glove. A5 or better cut resistance, that's on the ANSI scale. Definitely wear a carving glove. Okay, other side right here, I'm going to do the same thing. Draw a line. And then this time I'm carving in the opposite direction. Smooth that down and out, just like so. And that creates those two little bits right there. Now we can start to smooth that off in the back. We don't need to be hard like that. So for this back of the carving, while we're here, we might as well go ahead and put our belt in right now. We want to go from the bottom of the elbows. I'm going to draw a line straight across. to the bottom of the other elbow. And then slightly beneath that, another line. And you can make this belt as thick as you want to or as thin as you want to. I'm going to make mine about, what is that, 1/4 of an inch thick? Let's take a look here. Let's be specific. That's about 1/4 of an inch thick. Okay, that's about 1/4 of an inch thick belt. Now, to do this, I want to have the belt higher and the surrounding areas lower. So I'm going to put some relief cuts in right off the bat. Right here, the tip of the knife at the bottom of that belt corner right there. I'm going to push in deeper at the tip. I'm going to do the same thing here along the bottom of the belt. That allows me to take out a little bit of wood right here and right here to start bringing that waist in, or bringing that that robe up under the belt. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm not coming in straight on the belt. I'm going to angle it slightly because we're going to be going downhill from the belt to the robe. So I'm angling it just slightly. You can see I'm going straight in right here. And I'm going to angle it just a little bit. Maybe if I'm going from a 12 o'clock position, I'm going to maybe an 11, 10:30 maybe or so. And then carving in, carving up to it. Chipping stuff out. Nice and easy. Same thing along the back. Carve up to it, chip it out. And then right up underneath that arm, chip it out. And then do that relief cut up here to chip out that little bit there. And that's the bottom of our belt. And it doesn't look that good yet. You see? It looks terrible. It's like, oh my God, are we ruining this carving? No, we're not. Don't worry. We're going to do this. We're going to rescue it. It's going to look good. So a relief cut here on the back of the arm. A relief cut here on the back of the arm. Now on the top of the belt. Angling this time. If we're at noon here, we're going to like 1 o'clock or 1:30. Okay? Just a little bit of an angle. And then carving down to it. The same thing here on the other side. And we're going to go this time the opposite directions. We're going to go like 10 o'clock or 10:30. In, carve down to it. And now we want to, same thing here in the middle. Release that stuff. Okay. So now you can see that we're starting to develop right here a little bit of a waistline, right? The back is a little bit further out. It comes down to the waist. The robe is out further at the bottom. It comes up to the waist. That's looking good. That's looking fantastic. But that belt is out really too far. So we're going to adjust that belt now. And we're going to bring that belt down. So I'm just going to kind of 45 the corners of that belt all the way around. It's the top side. Now the bottom side. Just like so. All the way around. The line there is not perfectly straight, so I'm going to fix that right here while I can. And that's looking great. That's looking fantastic. All right. So now you can see there's some points here in the back there. I don't like those points, so I'm going to smooth those out right like so right now. That's looking a lot better. I don't like that hard corner right here either. I'm going to smooth that one down a little bit and chip that out. And that back here is peeking out a little bit too far. I'm going to smooth that down as well. That brings him to look just like so. And that's looking pretty good for our backside so far. We're making good progress, and I'm really liking it. Okay, the front here, that point there for the head, that is too pointy. And the point there for the front of our arms, that's too pointy as well. So we're going to take off about 1/4 of an inch right here up the front. I could have done this earlier. We didn't, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can do it now. So about like so. That's pretty good progress. Now, we're going to put a set of hands right here. A little more complicated to do that. And you have options here. If you don't want to do that, you can just do a V cut down the front and have it like this guy's hands right there. And just have the robes kind of come together with his hands inside the robes. But we're going to go for a little bit more complicated. We're going to have the hands like this guy right here, where they're kind of sitting out a little bit. Looks a little bit more active, a little bit more lively, right? So that's what we're going to go for on this guy. So we got that line here, and that's about, what, just a little bit above halfway, not quite halfway, from the top, that's about a 1/4 inch down. I'm doing a lot of 1/4 inch carving today. Okay, it's about a 1/4 inch down, and I'm going to come out from that, about a 30-degree angle maybe, like so. Kind of like a V with a flat bottom, upside down V with a flat bottom. Now I'm going to carve some relief cuts in right here. Come in straight and just rock that knife in. The same thing on this side. Come in straight and just rock that knife in. And now I'm going to go in this corner here. I'm going to press the knife tip down in. Notice I'm going kind of high, because I don't want the back of that blade going past the line we drew. Now I'm going to do the other direction with the corner going in on this side. Did you hear that? It just snapped. Did it pop out on me? Hey, it popped out. So still a bit of rough bottom. That's okay. I can clean that up just like so. Oh yeah, we got it pretty good. It does not have to pop out the first time. If it doesn't pop out the first time, all you do is you recut this cut, you recut that cut, and then you recut the 2 top cuts until it pops out. Just keep recutting until it pops out. As you get better at carving, you'll need less recuts. All right, so what I just did here, I took those hard corners off. See that little flat plane right there in that corner? That's all I'm doing. Taking those little hard corners off, like so. Now we're going to set the hands in. I'm going to do a line like so and a line like so. And we're going to make the hands sit lower than the robes. So while I do a relief cut here and a relief cut here, I'm going to remove wood on the hands to set that depth just slightly. Turning the carving the other direction. Now we need to do that same thing for the top of the hands there. That way you can see a little definition there. So continue that relief cut around. And then I'll 45 it. Looks like the hand's a little bit higher in the middle there. See how that is? Huh? Not bad. You can do the same thing on the bottom here, or close to it. I've got a 45-degree angle through the bottom of that a little bit. Blow on it. If you got a brush, like a good stiff bristle brush, like I got this one, it's good to brush the carving every now and then, knock all those little fuzzies off if there's any that are in your way that's just bothering you. You see I got a little bit of a rough cut in there, right? See a little bit of thing? Go ahead and get that out. Like so. That's better. Okay. So we're making really good progress. We still have, for major things to do, the face. So let's work on the face, and then we'll work on adding details. We're going to add a lot of little details to this guy, a whole lot of details. So for the face, I'm going to take off a bit more in the front. Carving back to where the face is about in line, or just a little bit past the hands. So you see how far in I went right there? Just a little bit past where the plane of the hands is. Just bring that in a little bit. That way when the hands are sitting in front of the body, they're out a little bit farther than the head's going to be. All right? Now for this right here in the front here, I'm going to take a 45-degree angle off around the front of that carving and along the side of the head here, along the side of the head here. Now I'm going to take 45 off this big corner here on the back of the head. This is the right side of the back of the head right there as well. And now right at the middle. So you can see I put a little bit of a roundness to the back of that robe, like so. Okay. Now we got a lot of that rough edge right here, that saw marks on the top of the carving. This is end grain. This is where you find out how sharp your knife is. We're going to take and clean that end grain off. Ooh, that's a rough part of my blade. You see how it chipped right there? Get it to where it checks out. Yeah, right there. See how it tore? That section of my blade is dull. That's what it looks like when you use a dull knife to do this. Let me show you what it looks like when you use a knife that's not dull. Or actually, I can use a different portion of the knife. There. This portion of the knife was completely sharp. See how smooth that is? Because that portion of the knife is sharp, but a portion of this knife that I'm using is dull. So, if you see it doing that, that is absolutely a dull knife. I'm changing how I'm using the knife right now to account for a deeper section here being dull. And it's probably like right in here. This section here is dull on my knife. I just need to go sharpen that up. And that's not an issue. That's not a hard thing to do. Just taking it and stropping it for a while, and we'll fix that. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little swooping cut. I just go in and out through the middle here, off that side there. Put a little roundness to the top of that hood, and take those hard edges off along the back side there. Right? That just puts a little bit of movement into what could be something really flat. Little things like that, that little roundness across the middle there, those are what will set your carving apart from other folks' carvings or from other things, or let people see that your carving has more life to it. It'll look like you are a far more advanced carver if you do that. If all of your surfaces are completely flat, like this right here is completely flat. It's just completely flat. We're going to fix that and make it look a lot better. This is completely flat here. This is completely flat. We want to try to fix those to where they're not completely flat. We want to have facets where you can see the lines here made by the knife as you carve, because those look really neat, especially when we wax it and we stain it. But we want to make sure that it's looking alive, that it's looking flowing, that it looks natural. And it's really going to pop if we do that and take the time to do that. So we're going to be doing things like that right there at the top of the hood all over the place. Now, for our hood, we are going to start right here in the middle, and we're going to draw an upside down U. I'm going to just kind of curve it around and bring it right down here to about midway on the arm, between the elbow and the hand, about midway. That's where I'm meeting. Same thing on the other side here. Right, like so. Okay? And you can see about midway between the elbow and the hand. About midway between the elbow and the hand. That's where it's coming down to. Okay? Now, to carve this out, it's difficult. You can't do it in one pass when you're tracing this line. So I'm going to start at the top middle, and I'm going to carve around here, okay? And I'm going to keep the line, the knife coming straight in, maybe angled a little bit inwards. So if I'm coming in at noon here, I might go to like a 1 o'clock position to angle this. I'm probably going to do that at a 1 o'clock. And I'm just going to carve it right around, straight down, right to the hand. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but to do this for me, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to turn the knife, or turn the carving upside down and carve the other direction. And you'll notice I'm going to move the carving and keep the knife still. Just like so. I didn't follow that line exactly. That's okay, I got a little bit off from it. That's fine. We'll adapt. Okay? Now I can take a little corner off there that I can start a little bit higher, and then I'll just follow this around up to the middle. While I'm doing this, understand the knife blade, I got a little bit out, you can see here, the knife blade is going right up to that line, that tip is. You're going to need to get better at this. You're not going to be perfect at it the first time, but use your spatial awareness, so to speak, and try to carve up to that line all the way up and get about to the top right there. Not all the way across the top, just about a quarter of the way into the top. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. For me here, this paring cut is kind of the only way to go for the way that this carving is positioned. And I'm not pulling hard. This is so light. I'm just barely moving the knife. Okay? Now I need to carve out the little bottom piece right there too to set that apart. Okay. Now we got only that middle section here that's connected, and we can do this a little bit easier from this angle at the top. And now we've got that hood set up just enough that we can worry about doing the rest of our face. Okay, so for this face here, let's go ahead and do the beard on this filament here. So we're going to put a nose in, and I'm going to come down about 1/4 of an inch again, and I'm going to put a line right there. That line is where the bottom of the nose is going to be. So I'm going to put my knife right there, flat with the carving, flat in this plane here, straight across left to right. I'm going to angle that up to, again, about the, 1 o'clock position. And I'm just going to rock that blade in. Then I'm going to carve up to it. And then chip that out. So we got a depth of nose about right like so. I mean, that's not 1/8 of an inch even. It's not much. Now, here's where you decide how thick you want your nose. If you go too thick, it's going to be hard to do your eyes. So I'm going to put a line about so, okay? Just like that. And they're angled slightly, thinner at the top, wider at the bottom. And that works out pretty well, I think, for a nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line right there, going down to about the same depth as the depth the nose is. Same thing on this side, just like so, nice, quick, and easy. And now here is where we determine what our eyes are going to look like. If you notice on these guys here, if you go with the eyes angled down, like this gentleman right here, angled down a little bit with the knife, right when you come in, it changes the expression on his face. You can have them come straight across, like these gentlemen, and they have a more severe look. This guy looks sadder. Maybe if you just look at his eyes, maybe it's sadder, but when they put the face there with a little smirk, he kind of looks like he's having a good time. But the angle that you do the eyes is going to determine a little bit of the emotion of the carving. Okay, so I'm going to come in right at the top of that right there, and I'm going to come in a little bit down for this one here, and you'll see how that looks. I'm just going to carve up and into there. Didn't pop out, so I'm going to recarve, and there it popped out. Okay, that's a start. Same thing over here. I'm going to repeat the same angle. One down, and chip that out. And there we go. Now what I want to do is I want to make those eyes deep at that tip of that point right there. And that's going to create a bit of a shadow. So I'm going to recut this line right here. Get real deep with the tip of that knife right in there. And the same thing along the side of the nose. Get real deep with the tip of the knife right in there. Okay? And now I'm going to try to carve just that corner. I'm going to come in at a diagonal angle and just try to get that corner real deep. And I'm going to come in at probably this angle right here into the carving. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Just that little bit of an angle. And do you see the shadow that creates in that eye hole? Just enough that it gives the illusion of an eye. It's not an eye. It's just a little dip in the carving. But it gives the illusion of an eye. You can easily fool the brain into thinking that's the eye. That's where the eye is supposed to be. You see? We don't need much to fool our brains into seeing something, that's not there. All right, now for this nose, we're gonna do a whole lot to this carving just by adjusting this nose a bit. We're gonna take that corner off here and here. Now I'm gonna take these hard corners off the side, like so. Like so. That's what I did right here. Okay. So that line comes in a little bit more now. That's part of what I'm doing too. I'm taking a little bit of 45-degree angle off of that nose. That way the brow line looks like it comes over the nose. Okay? Just like so. And that brow line coming over the nose makes that nose look more realistic. So that's what we're going for there. Now, I'm going to put a little kink in the nose. So I'm going to do a little soft V-cut. I'm barely pushing in here. And I put that little kink there, and that's going to bring more personality to it too. Let's continue that around to one of the sides. Pick a side, like that. And he's starting to look more alive, okay? Now we want to do cheeks, because this guy's going to have a beard. Cheeks are going to be from the corner of that nose right there. We're going to do a line down, and then a line up. Same thing on that side, a line down, and a line up. We want the cheeks to be higher than the beard. So we're going to carve that line, just draw a line with our knife, and then we're going to carve up to the cheeks from beneath. So I'm going to set that in here. Set that in here. And again, I'm coming from a or I should say, I'm coming in from a bit of an angle from the top. You can see the knife angle right there, right? You have a bit of an angle from the top, carve up to that line, up to that line. I'm going to take out that corner, so it's not too much of a hard corner, and that's our cheek for the first cheek. So let's do the other side. 45, 45, carving up to it, carving up to it, taking out that hard corner. And again, if you've got a stiff bristle brush, you can rub it across that carving and take a look at what you got. And that's looking pretty good. He is coming to life. He's looking better every minute. Now, let's figure out how we're going to do a little bit of a mustache. So from that corner of that nose, we're just going to come down with a line and down with a line, okay? I want the mustache to be on top of the beard. So this line here, I'm gonna trace with my knife, and I'm gonna remove wood on this side here. Over here, I'm gonna trace this line and remove wood on the other side. I'll show you how that's done. Straight in, just kind of curve it around. Straight in, just kind of curve it around. And now I'm gonna carve up to the cheek, like so. Now down to the cheek from this direction here, like that. And then I'm gonna trace along that line, remove those pencil marks, and soften that hard line. Okay? So that's the beginnings of our beard, of our mustache. Now, we're going to do an upside down U right here in the middle. Okay? And I am going to trace this around, starting just like we did the hood, starting from the middle. I'm going to do one side, and then I'm going to turn it over and do the other side. So I'm going to carve that out like that. Do the other side. If you try to do it all at once, you wind up chipping or breaking wood, and it can be hard to do. Okay? Now, just like the hood, I'm going to carve up to the middle. Carve up to the middle. And now, right underneath this edge here, about like that, right there. See that line I drew? That's where I'm going to put a bit of a lip. So I'm going to come down, almost straight down into that carving here. Okay? Right there. And then carve into it. Do the same thing to the other side of the mustache. Carve into it. And that creates just a little bit of a lip. Just a tiny little thing. It's barely noticeable. But man, it does help set that apart. It really does. I like the look at that. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to set this beard in a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out a bit of a V cut right here. We're going to take out a little diamond right there, a little triangle. Same thing over here, like this. We're going to take that out, okay? So I'm going to come in right here at as the straight flat plane of this hand right here, that flat plane. I'm coming in straight on that flat plane at that angle, okay? And then I'm going to carve straight in, like so. I'm going to relief cut along the back of that, and straight in. And I'm going to recut until I get to pop out, like so. Follow? Now I'll do the same thing to the other side. And you don't have to do that if you don't want to. All of these things I show you how to do are all optional. Okay. That is the start of that beard, okay? Looking pretty neat. To put some detail to the beard, what we can do is we can take little triangles out along the bottom here, like that, okay? That starts to make the beard look a little bit more dynamic. Now over here, we're gonna take a little V cut out. Over here, we're gonna do the same thing, okay? Little V cuts there to put a little more life to that beard. And that's looking fantastic. Now, that is the general carving right there. We could say that we're done and have this little guy here looking neat. But I want to add details. So how are we going to do that? For one, I'm going to take that hard corner off the top edge of that robe here of the arms. Do it on both sides. Like so. Like so. Now I'm going to put a V cut, triangle cut, into that elbow. Open that elbow up. See how that looks? Now it looks like folded cloth a bit more. Okay? Do that on the other side. Put that in there to make that look like folded cloth a bit more. Now the bottoms of these arms, 45 that as well. See there? And what we're going to do is we're going to do a not a straight end stop cut on here. We're going to come in and we're going to go to about the 2 o'clock position, put a line, and I'm going to carve up to it. That puts a little fold in that. Do another fold right here, 2 o'clock position, carve up to it. Okay? That puts a couple folds in the bottom of that sleeve. Do the same thing on the other side, because the other side, other direction, we're not going to go 2 o'clock, we're going to go 10 o'clock. Carve up to it. 10 o'clock, carve up to it. So we got some folds there. We've created a little movement now in the front of that. Now what we can do as well is we can put a little line down here. Maybe he's got some trim on that sleeve right here, okay? We'll put a little trim on that sleeve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that line with the knife from one angle, coming in like the 10 o'clock position, okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing from the other direction at the 2 o'clock position, ever so slightly. And I'm going to make sure I continue that all the way to the top and continue it around the bottom. And that creates a little bit of trim on the sleeve. It works out good. If you don't want to do the tracing way, you can do a straight, flat little V cut like that. Then the top. And then you bring it around to the bottom as well. And there we go. Now we got some trim going on the front of that. That's looking pretty neat. Now let's make this robe look more alive. I think we're going to add some more trim along the bottom, but first let's make this robe look more alive. So how are we going to do that? We want to add more curves to it. The area here on the shoulders, this looks too bulky. It looks too big. So to fix that, I'm going to put some curves in right here in the front. Start to bring that in. Right? See how it looks a little smoother there now? Same thing over here. In and out. Just like so. Now this hard corner on that arm, I'm going to take that hard corner off. Okay? And now I'm going to do a 45 degree at an angle. I'm going to, like if this is 12 o'clock, I'm going to come in about, 9 or 10 o'clock here. And I'm going to put a little V cut here. Just a light, soft V cut. And I'm going to continue it around the back of the arm a little bit. Continue around the front a little bit too. Flatten out a little bit. That puts a little fold of cloth in that arm. Do the same thing on the other side. You can do it a little bit lower if you want to. If you do a little bit lower, you might be able to get one above it as well, which will make it more dynamic and make it not symmetrical. And that's a really good thing. You don't want things to be completely symmetrical. When things look symmetrical in a carving or in a statue or in a drawing even, they look low skill. They don't look like they're quality, right? If you see Michelangelo's David, it is dynamic. It's a different pose on the left side versus the right side. If you see statues of ancient pharaohs in Egypt, they're often very stiff. The Egyptians weren't as good at the sculpture as Michelangelo was when he made David. Okay, so let's do more of this curvature here on the back of the head here. So from the shoulder in, I'm going to curve in. Do that in the back of the head too. Do it on this shoulder as well. And then bring it to the back of the head as well. Okay, you see what I'm doing there? See how that looks now? That's looking absolutely fantastic. I like that. I want to do that a little bit too, right here on the front of the hood, right here along that ridge right there. I'll do that right there as well. Just real gentle. This might take a little while to kind of carve nice and slow. I'm using just the tip. When you're doing detail work, this is a rough out knife, right? It's a nice long knife. A detail knife is maybe, the tip of it there, the tip of it there. So when I'm doing detail work, I'm not using the back of this knife down here. I'm just using the tip, which is why when I noticed the back edge of the knife was not sharp, I didn't stop using it because I'm not going to use that portion of the knife right now for this type of work. I'm doing detail work. You follow? I hope you follow. But now let's see how that curvature there is really adding to the realism of this robe. I think it's really doing a lot for him here. Okay. So what else can we do? We can add a fold to the robe down here, right? Let's say this robe is kind of bunching up right here. What we're going to do is we're going to do some V cuts right here, like that. I'm going to change the angle at the bottom down here and have it kind of come over a bit more, right? So that right there kind of makes that robe, let's make that plane along the top a little bit smoother. Now that kind of looks like that robe is folded over a bit right there in the back. It's kind of interesting. It's more dynamic, and I like the look of that. I'm going to smooth this out a bit right there. Right? And you can do another fold like that too if you want to. Let's do one right here, right? Kind of coming up like that. Like so. I'm going to fold again. Right? What else can we do? Let's add some detail to this belt. You can leave the belt like that. If you got a U-gouge, you can kind of carve a channel in it, which makes a nice little effect, kind of like this. If you got a U-gouge, you can do that right there. I like that look too sometimes. But we're going to do this kind of look right here, right? The kind that's on this guy right there. We're going to do a intricate belt on the back. So let's go ahead and do that. To start that, I'm going to draw lines like this right here. And how far apart you put these lines is going to determine how this is going to look. I like keeping them barely 1/8 of an inch apart. I feel like it creates a real neat effect, real neat look. Now, along each of those lines, all we're doing is we are just creating a V cut. We're not going in deep. It'll be easy to split the wood here if you're not careful. So be careful. We don't have to do the whole thing at once. If you notice, I just do one part of it. I'll flip the carving around and do the other part. This is not a quick process. This is detail work. Sometimes detail work can take as long as the rest of the carving combined just to get real detailed. Just to get in there and get all those little facets done. Just right. I chipped out a lot there. See there? I messed that up. I chipped out more. So how do we fix that? Well, we smooth it out. Okay? We take a little bit more depth along the bottom, a little more depth along the top. Not much. And then we redraw those lines. Like so, and I redo them. Just like so. Yeah. That's good progress there. Take the bottom of that off to make that belt straighter a little bit. And then I'm going to continue that line along the underside of the belt. Cut ticket off. There we go. Oh, we need to continue it a little bit on the top side too. Just take your time here, like I said. You're not in a rush. you're carving. You're probably making this for a D&D table, or maybe just making it for your shelf. What are you making it for? It's gonna be for you, it'll be for a friend. Take your time on it, you'll be happier with it. Okay, now that we got that done, what other details can we add to the back here? Because we want to add some more details. The more details you get into these things, the more people are impressed with your skill. The more they look at that and go, wow, look at that thing. It's so neat. There's this detail and there's that detail. There's detail everywhere, right? We want them to have that detail everywhere. So let's add a crease right there, right? One on the other side too, on the shoulder right there. Just a little V cut, okay? We can kind of continue that little crease there, like so, like the cloth is kind of hanging down to it, okay? Let's do another one, kind of right there. And then one coming down at an angle in the back here, okay? Like the cloth gets pulled down to the back there. That's what happens in the back of robes. Let's do the same thing there. Okay, like it's pulling tight. And belts cinch things tight too. So we can do little notches on the belt. So I'm going to come in and put little V cuts. Take out a little triangle right there. You see? If I do that on one side, and then the same exact side on the belt on the other side, it kind of looks like the belt's being pulled. You see? I got it off-centered a little bit, but it looks like the belt's being pulled, right? And it's pulling that cloth to it. I like that. That's neat. We'll do one more over here. Okay. So I think that guy is going to be done. So let me show you another face real quick. This is the other carving I'd gotten pretty close being done too. Rather than doing the cheeks like we did in the other one, we're just going to go straight to some smile lines, which start from the corners of the nose, look kind of like what we would do for a mouth, or for a mustache, but rather than carving the outside, we're going to carve on the insides, okay? So I'm going to start in the corner of that nose and come down, corner of the nose, come down, and it's creating smile lines on the face, like so, like so, okay? Now, I'm going to, right across here, I'm going to put a V cut, right like so. And then I'm going to put a stop cut, carve up to it from the inside. And you can see I kind of got like an unhappy face there, right? Now, right here, I can come in, carve up to it, come in, carve up to it, and come in, carve up to it. And I have created a bit of a chin. Try to clean that cut up real fast. Okay, so you can see the smile lines right there and that mouth give you another look for our mysterious stranger, right? A whole other look for what you're going for. And if you want to add a little more detail, you could bring that cheek in by taking that smile line down a little bit. A little V cut here into that smile line right there. And kind of put a line. You don't want to have it too sheer. I don't often prefer that version, but if you want to have variation, let's say you're wanting to have like 4 or 5, they clean up quite nicely. There's still a few things I can clean up here, and if I take the time, I absolutely will. Absolutely fantastic. They look like butter when you get them done. Before you go anywhere, let's go over a little bit about waxing and staining so you can take a look at that. Variety is the spice of life, and I want to make sure I showcase that a little bit. The middle figure here has a Varathane Cabernet Stay. The second figure has a natural wood finish here, this natural 209 finishing. The far right has Phantom Gray 1089 from Minwax. And the other two, the far left and the second to last, has Black Walnut Danish Oil from Watco, and I have this mason jar. Now, when applying this, I don't do anything special. I just take the figure and I dip them directly into the stain, no matter what stain it is. Once that's done, I let them rest for just a moment as I grab a paper towel and wipe them off immediately. I don't wait. I do not pass go. Just get them wiped off as best you can and set them aside. Once that's done, you heat up some wax and paste natural finishing wax is what I use. I apply it with a toothbrush to each carving very thoroughly, very thick. And then once it's fully applied, I go ahead and wipe it off immediately with a paper towel. Once I've got it all wiped off, and when you're wiping it off, it pushes it kind of into the wood grain a little bit more. Once you get it all wiped off, you're going to take a nice stiff bristle brush and brush that thing and buff it out. Do not use the same brush that you will use for one stain with another. I do not put wax on the natural stained figure. The one that has a natural stain, he gets no wax whatsoever, just the natural finishing, and that's it. And that's all, folks. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. Head over to Instagram, Facebook. Give me a like and a follow over there if you would. Give a thank you in the comment section down below to our Patreon members. They'll be popping up on the screen right here. These folks are helping support the channel, and they're helping to make things go around here. And I really appreciate their help, sincerely. If you want to take part and be a part of this journey, you can head over to Patreon, take a look at the content that I have over there, and see if you want to take part. It's as low as like $1.50 a month, so it doesn't cost very much. You can jump in at $10 a month or higher if you'd like to. Outside of that, I really appreciate your time. I'll see you guys next time, and don't forget to watch my videos pop up on the screen. Bye.